As we approach the marker of Donald Trump's first 100 days in office, it is not difficult to gauge the grade that America has given him on his performance as president. It is bad, historically bad, not just for Donald Trump, but for any president ever. His 39% approval rating isn't just the result of Democrats and independents being furious with his atrocious performance. It's Republican voters as well. But not just voters, Donald Trump's backers, both financial and in the media, are turning against him because he is failing so badly. And that was all exposed in some shocking leaked texts that are humiliating Donald Trump at the worst time and in the worst way that you know we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we are able to get into these leaked texts and a breaking news story from Semaphore, we need a little bit of context on the people who are now flipping on Donald Trump, and we can see some of that from Ari Melber talking about billionaire Bill Ackman right here.
Bill Ackman. You may recognize him a bit or know his name. When you look at those Wall Street hedge fund and big sort of masters of the universe, to use the old novelistic phrase, he's been really atop them in the recent era, last year or two, as the MAGA guy. And he recently specifically endorsed Trump's economic plans after the election.
We're stepping into, I would say, the most pro-growth, pro-American administration I've perhaps seen in my adult lifetime, certainly. I would say everyone is incredibly enthusiastic, really about a new administration that's about efficiency, removing the impediments to growth, deregulation. President Trump will do nothing that interferes with the success of the country, the success of the economy.
Quite the embrace. Now Ackman says Trump is making the ultimate blunder for the success of the country and the economy, self-inducing what he calls the economic equivalent of a nuke, blaming Trump for a, quote, self-induced economic nuclear winter. Trump policies destroying confidence in our country as a trading partner, as a place to do business. Now, that billionaire's analogy might sound a bit extreme, equating these costs with the death toll of nuclear war, but his point is that Trump's policy here is so obviously bad on the evidence, on what we know about economics and the foreseeable results of the $6 trillion we just lost, that it's so extreme and dangerous it could hurt hundreds of millions of people for years, not a month or two, for years. Now, economists agree on that point if Trump is stubborn and ignores the reality and costs and presses on with this. Some of it, even if he presses on and then tries to dial it back, will not be easily reversed. Again, Ackman saying this will, the nuclear winter, as he calls it, take potentially years or decades to rehabilitate, potentially decades to rehabilitate. That's a lot of economic pain. Most of it hits working people the hardest. They have the leanest savings or no savings or live on debt, so they can't just afford a recession and live on like normal. And I want to show you tonight, right now, I mentioned we're going to go through the multiple lanes, and I'm going to get to those national protests, which are significant and are a different metric for what we're seeing across all the measurable ways Americans are perceiving this. But before I go any further, I just want to point out this nuclear winter concern is a long ways from Mr. Ackman's Trump guarantee that I showed you that was just 116 days ago.
President Trump will do nothing that interferes with the success of the country, the success of the economy.
It's a long ways from saying Trump will do nothing that interferes with the success of the American economy to what Mr. Ackman now updates as, his words, the risk of a nuclear winter.
So all these Wall Street and business types were trying to tell us crazy libs who were freaking out with our Trump derangement syndrome that you can't take the guy literally. You can't take him seriously when he's talking about tariffs. He would never do that. It's a negotiating tactic. And several $1 trillion evaporated out of the stock market later, they're realizing, yeah, the people who have been right the whole time about what Donald Trump will do and has done, we're pretty good at predicting the future on the crazy things he does. And that is why specifically billionaire donors to Donald Trump, are freaking out and furious with him, which was exposed in some leaked text that came out of a billionaire group chat that included the likes of Mark Andreessen and other conservative media figures and big dollar donors that I want to check out right here. Donald Trump's destabilizing Liberation Day has taken its toll on the coalition Andreessen helped shape. You can see it on X, where investors joke that they'll put pronouns back in their bios in exchange for a return to the 2024 stock prices, where billionaires have been a leading critic of Donald Trump's tariffs. Group chats have changed on the economy in the last few weeks, said Rufo. There's a big split on the tech right. The polarity of social media has also reversed, and while participants used to keep their conservative ideas off social media, now the anti-Trump sentiment is what you're afraid to say on X, one said. By mid-April, David Sachs, another billionaire who is a member of this leaked group chat, said, "This group has become totally worthless, with the loudest voices having TDS," he wrote, shorthanding Trump derangement syndrome. Then he addressed Torenberg. "You should create a new one with just smart people." Signals soon showed that 3 men had left the group chat. The Sequoia partner Sean McGuire, the Bitcoin billionaire Tyler Winklevoss, and Tucker Carlson. As we can see right here, Brian Goldberg responded, "I'm not sure we have Trump derangement syndrome. I think Republicans who supported Trump are seeing that this is a failed administration, within many members of this group chat leaving." So the billionaire conservative elite are also furious with Donald Trump for his complete mismanagement and destruction of the economy. Now, this group chat that was being reported by Semaphore is, like I said, a collection of all of these billionaires, all of these crypto bros, all of these tech guys who supported Donald Trump, who have become increasingly outspoken about supporting not just Trump, but the conservative movement at large, and they're regretting it. It's not shocking. We knew what was going to happen. These people who, believe that they're so smart or that they understand it all, they're playing 5D chess or whatever. Yeah, they didn't get politics. They didn't understand Trump. They didn't see what was actually going to happen. The only billionaire who really seemed to was Mark Cuban, because he was out campaigning with Kamala Harris. And yeah, now these guys have lost billions and billions of dollars. They've screwed themselves over. And they're realizing it was a big mistake, which everyone is, at least those who voted for Donald Trump. I know that's not you and I. We knew it was going to be a big mistake from the beginning. But now it's our time to call that out, which is exactly what Jamie Raskin was doing right here.
Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal and Congressman Jamie Raskin recently wrote to 5 of those law firms which made deals with the president before he could target them in executive orders. They write, quote, "Your agreement makes you complicit in efforts to undermine the rule of law and to turn private attorneys into President Trump's personal law firm." Starting us off this Sunday, one of the authors of that letter, Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. Before we get into the specifics of that letter, I want to get your thoughts as we near the 100-day mark of Donald Trump's second term. It is hard to imagine that it's only been about 100 days, given what some say is this unprecedented damage that has been done to our federal government. What are you hearing from your constituents, and what strikes you about this 3-month mark for Trump's second term?
Well, great anguish and upset, both among my constituents in Maryland's beautiful 8th District, but across Maryland, across the country. Donald Trump destroyed $6 to $7 trillion in retirement savings and individual and company wealth. He plunged us into a trade war with the entire world, except for his buddies in Moscow. He's been wrecking federal departments and agencies by firing people wholesale without any due process at all. And, of course, he's been trampling due process when it comes to the rights of immigrants in the country. So it's pretty much a horror show. The good news is that people are standing up all over the country. We've got institutions like Harvard University and like WilmerHale that are standing up against this and leading the way forward. We've got labor unions like AFGE, the AFL-CIO itself, which have said no way. So the country is in an uproar about this full-blown assault both on democracy and the major achievements of democracy, like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, where they want to cut $880 billion over the next couple of weeks. So that's the coming showdown as we come back to Congress this week.
And I certainly admire and respect, sir, your optimism. But on the other side of that, you have universities like Columbia that have capitulated. And as you and your colleague, Senator Richard Blumenthal, have written to some of the top law firms demanding transparency and accountability, there's concern that those law firms, powerful law firms, have also capitulated. What is important for viewers to know about these deals between the Trump administration and these law firms? And in what ways, if at all, do you believe any of this action, any of their actions, may have violated the law?
Well, the first thing to note is there's no safety in appeasing authoritarians. So Donald Trump comes forward and says, for the first time in American history, I'm mad at this law firm and that law firm and that law firm, and I'm not going to allow any of you into federal buildings, including courthouses. I'm going to revoke your federal security clearance. I'm going to deny you federal contracts because I don't like what one of your lawyers or one of your former lawyers once did. It's obviously blatantly unconstitutional, and yet so many law firms led by Paul Weiss-Rifkin just gave in out of fear that, they were going to be trampled in the process, and somehow they thought they could deal with this monster. But the law firms that have stood up, like Perkins Coie and Sussman Godfrey and Wilmer Hale, have shown the way, because they went to court, and within a matter of days, they got injunctions against this lawlessness, which obviously violates the freedom of speech, the right to counsel, due process, and so on. And it's the same thing with Harvard University. You've got Columbia on one hand, which buckled under, and now they're continuing to be shaken down by the administration. And you've got Harvard, which said, no way, you're not going to run our university. And that's a much safer way to go. But Donald Trump shook down the law firms for nearly $1 billion in pro bono legal aid, meaning that they're going to be having their, junior associates working for Donald Trump and his pet pro bono causes, whether it's anti-choice or anti-environment or anti-union. That means those firms are going to be conflicted out of doing pro-choice, pro-union, pro-environment work. There is no safety in appeasing authoritarians.
This has been the worst first 100 days of an administration we have ever seen. It has been historically bad in every possible way, and we have to message on every possible front. I know, of course, talking about the economy might be viewed as the most impactful way to communicate the message of the failures of the administration. Sure, we should be doing that, but we need to talk about everything, because incompetence and corruption can be found anywhere you look in this administration. And those are the two things we need to focus on above all. And we're certainly going to be doing so on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.